Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 4 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. Today, we're having multiples. And by multiples, I mean guests. Just in case your head was going somewhere else, people, come on. Today, our guests are author Rebecca Hefner and narrators Curtis Michael Holland and Paige. Thank you for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us. Yay.
Yeah, so happy to be here again.
So because we've had Curtis and Rebecca here, we're going to do the quick version. So tell us a little about yourself, how long you've been narrating and writing, and then we kind of go from there. You two hop in there whenever they are done. All right, Rebecca.
Okay, so I am Rebecca Hefner. I'm a USA Today bestselling author. I've been a full-time author for almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in November. And yeah, I write fantasy romance, romantasy and steamy dystopian romance. And then I write steamy contemporary romance under the name Isla Asher. So that's my quick bio.
And thank you for telling us your other name. Sometimes authors are very mysterious, same as narrators, but other times they're like completely open. I'm like, well, if you want to tell us, because that means just more books for us. So,
right.
Yeah. All right, Curtis.
Hello, everyone. I'm Curtis Michael Holland. I'm a narrator and theater teacher based in Hong Kong, but I'm actually Canadian. Little fun fact. And what else? I don't know. I've done over 100 books at this point. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. My pseudonym is I don't share it because I try to keep us separate, like we're separate people.
Absolutely.
But he always comes out of the cracks, or someone mixes my name with him. And I'm like, really, guys? Like a publisher did just the other day, and I'm like, come on, everyone. Yeah.
Oh, I'm like,
And
that's where they feed.
Yeah, but it happens, and it's okay because he's basically my other half.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when that happens, I'm like, I always run to the author. I'm like, emergency reveal occurred.
It's like it's fine. It's like I'm not ashamed or anything, and like I'm not like scared or anything.
Oh no,
but,
yeah.
We're different people though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's me.
All right.
Well, my name is Paige. I've been a narrator for almost 4 years. I have over 75 audiobooks under my belt right now. I narrate mostly romance, and I'm also a part-time manuscript editor with about 10 years of experience in that field.
Wow. Well, I remember seeing your handle on Twitter about 4 years ago, and just kind of like, I'm like, who's that following the accounts and stuff? And I was like, oh, okay. And then to see you now, fast forward to have that many books out and be where you are right now, it's been fantastic to see that journey. Same thing with all the others, but I'm like, yeah, I love when that happens. Yeah. Rebecca, we are here to chat about your series that these two fabulous narrators have been recording. The first book is out and the other two are being recorded. If not, they're soon be out soon. But tell us all about the series and how you came about, selecting them to be part of this.
Yes, I'm excited to chat about it. So so the series, it's a trilogy. It's called the Sendaxa Chronicles, and it is a steamy dystopian romance trilogy. So I call it a mashup between 50 First Dates and The Last of Us. So if anyone listening likes either or both of those things, you'll probably like this trilogy. So I say 50 First Dates because our heroine in book one, the female main character, she has amnesia. So she loses her memory every night when she goes to sleep and wakes up every day not remembering anything. So when we start the series, her name is Danny. We wake up with her. She's injured. She doesn't know where she is. And she realizes that the world is destroyed. And then she is confronted by this super sexy, hottest guy she's ever seen in the world. And he claims to be her husband. And then she doesn't remember him at all. And then he tells her that she's the one who actually destroyed the world. So that's all in like chapter one.
Oh boy. Okay.
So the series just kind of goes from there. And yes, book one. So I'm a wide audiobook author, as I think anyone who knows me in the book world knows, because literally all I talk about is wide audio. So everyone's like, okay, we know Rebecca is talking about wide audio again. So I release on all platforms, not just on Audible. So I'm in the process right now of Ree and Curtis did such an amazing job. So book one is I pretty much have it out everywhere. And then book two, they're finished and it's all done. And I'm in the process of sort of getting that out on all the platforms. It takes a couple of weeks to get it everywhere. And then book three is in final production. So I'm super excited. It should be released very soon, the whole trilogy. And the way that I got these two fabulous narrators to narrate this story for me, yay, is that I had met both of them separately. And Curtis, I think you and I met, I can't remember exactly how we met, like maybe on Instagram or something, but I noticed that Curtis, he had this thing on Clubhouse where he did an audiobook chat. And listen, anyone who says audiobook chat, I'm like, hey, do you want me to come on and talk? I can help. I have an audiobook group. Like, I get so excited. So, Chris, I reached out to you and you like had me come on into your chat or something.
Yeah, I remember I was doing Clubhouse. I was just actually thinking about that. I stopped doing that like before the summer. I don't know what happened. It was just me and my group that were running some stuff. We didn't match up really with time zones and things were getting tough. So we like quiet quit. And we were going to come back after the summer, but now it's like the fall. So so I don't know if we'll ever get back, but yeah, Rebecca reached out to me on Instagram and I think ACX as well. And she was just like, "Oh my God, like I love your voice. I want you to be on my books." And I was like, "Okay, cool." Like, and seeing what she's all about, like she does like a lot of really cool romance that of subgenres. Like there's a lot of fantasy, there's a lot of sci-fi, and I love that stuff. So, yeah, when I checked her out, I was like, "Cool."
Yeah. So I was
And plus, you're
super
just
excited
funny.
about
Like your reels are so
Yeah.
funny. Like with you reacting to guys chopping wood and stuff.
Oh,
I
yes.
I love it.
I had reached out to Rebecca actually about a year before we got cast for this book, because I love both as a reader. I loved both of her pen names that she had just, Rebecca and Isla. And at that point, I had read all of her books. So I reached out to her, expressing interest in narrating for her. And we talked back and forth for a while. And then she messaged me on Instagram similarly and like introduced me to Curtis. And that was where Curtis and I started becoming friends. And we've been talking for a while as well, before we even started the production on this series. And it's great because it's like a bunch of friends working together. We vibe really well on all fronts, and it's been a great experience.
It's been so awesome. And that was the thing of like when I met Curtis, I was like, okay, I definitely want you to do something for me, but I have to finish something to give you to narrate. And then the same with Ree, I was like, I really want to I just want to find a good project that you can work on. So then when I finished this trilogy, or when I finished the first book of the trilogy, I still had to write more. But when I finished the first book, I was like, oh my gosh, I can have them duet narrate this. That's perfect. And then that could be my first project that I work on with both of them together. And so, yeah, I reached out and just introduced them on Instagram. And then we all had this like awesome group chat. So, yeah. And then now I feel like we're all friends. So, yeah, it's been really cool getting, this whole project together.
Well, I love that too, because sometimes the conversations about how do you find a narrator for your books, there's one option. And just sometimes it's just a matter of being open to sending out that, cold email or cold DM, but also interacting them on social is always a good thing. I will bat an eye a lot less if we've had interactions, even if it's you liking my post and vice versa, than sliding into my DMs and saying something. I'm like, yeah, no. But it's definitely something. Now, I do want to say, because how you were telling us about these stories, you were writing the book. When you heard their voices, did you go, aha, these are the characters? Or how did that kind of go? Because casting is important.
Well, I think for me, I loved both of their voices. I knew I wanted to have them narrate something for me, but I just knew I needed to find the right projects. So Curtis and I had spoken a lot about how he likes sci-fi and fantasy and stuff. Obviously, this dystopian trilogy takes place in the future. It's kind of sci-fi, whatever. So I was like, oh my God, this is perfect for like, I always loved his voice. I just wanted to find something that I felt like he would like too, so I wasn't torturing him. And then same with Ree, I was like, I definitely want to duet narration, and I just felt like their voices would really complement each other for the series, and they do. They sound great.
Mm-hmm. That's really good, because sometimes we're like, well, how does that work? Or do we process who might be the popular ones, or again, stuff like that. And I'm always big on, it's one thing if your voice of the characters may not have something as a specific, and then you can cast anybody, but if they have something specific, or you're thinking about a particular individual while you're writing, because a lot of authors now are writing towards or with like a voice in mind. And so that always kind of helps with casting too. Do you find that you're writing your stories knowing it's going to be in audio?
Oh yes. Well, everything I write is always going to be in audio because I'm the hugest audio dork in the world, as previously discussed. Yeah. So everything I don't know if I just know that. I've worked with so many great narrators now because I have a lot of books. So for me, it's more just like I hear sort of the tone of the characters' voices, and then I pretty much know. I mean, I know a lot of narrators now, so I usually will just reach out if I have something in mind. For me, it's more like I think every narrator that I work with is so talented. So for me, it's more of just like what's the availability in their schedule, and do I think they would like what I wrote? Because Ree and Curtis could speak to this, but recording an audiobook, it takes a lot of time, and you're sitting in that booth reading words. So I don't want to ask someone to narrate a book that I don't think they'll like or enjoy. I don't know. You guys could talk about that more.
Yeah, I mean, we don't always do stuff that we love.
That's
Like,
true.
I usually end up loving it just because this is a dream kind of job for me. But you would be surprised at some of the stuff I get asked to do. Like it's not like all fun and games. So having your stuff is always a treat.
I second that.
Well,
So
I mean,
yeah.
it's so that's also too important too, to kind of find that joy regardless of what it is that you're narrating, because it's a job, and someone's trusting you with their work. I know sometimes people are like, well, do you like everything? I'm like, it's impossible to like everything. I'm like, you don't like every flavor of ice cream, right? But you don't
Right.
know until you try it, and then at the same time, mix and match here and there, right?
Yes.
So, Rebecca, with this being a dystopian, what made you decide to have it be a duet narration?
So I'm really excited. Actually, this is the first duet narration I've ever done under Rebecca Hefner. So under Isla Asher, I have 10 audiobooks under that name, and 9 of them were duet narrated by Kai Kennicott and Wynn Ross, who are also amazing.
Yes, they are.
And then one of them is solo narrated by Ree, who did a fantastic
Hi.
job. Um, but anyway, so my contemporary romance pen name is where I decided to invest in duet narration first in my catalog, because I just knew that for contemporary romance, that was really where duet narration was just super popular, and obviously they're more expensive. So for my Rebecca books up until this point, I had only done solo narration. So for my Romantasy series, which is a 13-book series, I have a couple of male narrators that have done those, different ones that I work with who are great. Zachary Zaba, Devin Wilcox, and Wynn Ross did one of those for me also solo. And then I have another dystopian trilogy, a sci-fi time travel trilogy called Prevent the Past. And Heather Firth did that one for me solo, and she did a great job. And she's fantastic too. I mean, like I said, all the narrators I work with are just amazing. So anyway, but by the time this trilogy rolled around, I have been doing this long enough that I was like, I think I'm ready to finally make the investment in a duet narration for Rebecca, which I just hadn't been comfortable making that investment yet, because as we all know, audiobooks are very expensive, and I pay for all of my audiobooks up front so that I can keep my rights, because I am a control freak and I like to control my distribution. So, so for this trilogy, I kind of knew that was what I wanted to do. So, this will be my first duet narrated series under Rebecca Hefner, and I'm just really excited about it because Ree and Curtis really brought the characters to life in a way that, like, way beyond what I imagined. They're so good. So
Duet narration is actually one of my favorites because especially when there's really good banter in a scene or there's those interruptions, it actually does that way. And I do know that there's a couple of different ways on recording that. How did you guys go about the recording of the series in duet narration?
Well, we recorded separately, actually. We have about a 13-hour time difference between us. So that coordination over however many days would have been very difficult. So we recorded separately, and we marker where the other person's dialogue comes in, and our engineer goes through all the audio and does the editing and mastering for us.
Yeah, we had a lot of like we would chat with each other. We'd find each other in real time. We still do. Sometimes we just chat about like what we're gonna do or just for fun. And and then yeah, we had to record separately just because of that time difference.
Yeah. I think sometimes people tend to think that you have to be literally, it used to be back in the day that you were physically in the same room at a studio doing the recording. And then fast forward, it was being done via Zooms and things like that. But a lot of times these books are being recorded by the one narrator, all their stuff side, and then the other narrator doing their side of things. And then the engineer does its magic and splices and makes it look like you guys were and sound like you guys were in the same room.
Right.
And it's one of those things where it's like really magical at the same time. But I think authors sometimes are now just starting to understand that because there is a separation as far as the cost goes on how it is narrated. And so anytime I hear those people in now threads, oh my God, audiobooks are like $50,000 gazillion. I'm like, who are you talking to? I'm like, Rebecca has information about stuff like that. It ain't that much.
I mean, it's not that much. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
It's not
like...
cheap. No. Nothing that's ever worth it really is, though, right?
Yeah.
Every author has to make a decision on whether or not it is cost effective for them to actually produce audio. And that's just being real. There are some authors who will not produce an audiobook until they have earned enough money off of the ebook, paperback, hardcover, whatever they're selling to cover the cost of the audiobook. And then there are others who, say, I can afford to do this, and I'm going to try to increase my income by spending the money now and hoping, and that the audio will work for me.
Yeah, it's like any like business venture. You don't know if it's gonna strike gold for sure. But I was gonna add, like when we record, it's not just like I fire off all my lines without thinking about how Ree's going to say it. But I kind of like I picture Ree as whoever the character is in my head, and then as I'm recording, so it's a little bit, it's the work is a bit schizophrenic because you're switching through character voices. You're always like, I don't know, you're in your head, you're in someone's ear, and it's just really like meta, weird, fun.
Yeah, it is. It's an exercise in imagination and empathy too, right? I don't think that we would have jived so well with this duet narration recording separately if we hadn't become friends and gotten to know each other before we got into the booth. It's more difficult when the other person is a complete stranger and you don't know how they're going to deliver their lines, or you can't even get a good guess on how they will. So it was a really good experience to do this in duet.
Yeah, you're such like I'll duet with you anytime or duel.
Same here.
Well, like some narrators, like there was one recent one, and I don't expect everyone to have the same process or to go above and beyond what they need to, but I gave a clip of myself reading the first part of a chapter. And I'm like, just so you know, my interpretation of the characters, just so you know, like how I'm going to go about this. And he was like, here's my speaking voice. And that was the clip. And I was like, that's so passive aggressive. Like, this is what I'm going to do. Thanks. And that was it.
Yeah. It's a lot of teamwork. A lot of times people tend to think or not realize that it is a lot of teamwork. I mean, I've seen it where, and I've heard the books where it's taking place in Louisiana, and one of the narrators has done the accent of that slight accent in there, and the other one does not. And I'm going, well, this is going to be interesting.
Mhm.
And it is
Yeah.
something that is being talked about, I think, a lot more now as far as the consistency across the board. And when the cadence is different or the pace is different, it can be very jarring for the listener, regardless if they just started yesterday listening to it or they've been listening for, 10 plus years.
Right.
Yeah, it's important that teamwork, and I always kind of throw in there the whole like answer your emails
Mhm.
for things like that. But I think too that it's very interesting. I kind of see you guys with like a stuffed animal in front of the mic, and like as if you're having that dialogue with the character and not having something there to represent. That's just me being like, at least there's something in there. A less schizophrenic, right, Curtis?
Yeah,
a
I
tad.
usually
Love
have
it.
my 2 dogs on the floor in my booth when I'm recording. So,
Really, they stay quiet?
yes, of course, if one of them starts snoring,
Uh-huh.
I have to stop. But to me, it's worth having my little fur babies in the
Mhm.
booth with me when I'm recording. They're very good, so I can't complain.
That is good. Because I can only imagine what those dogs are thinking. Like, why is mom talking in that different voice again? I don't know, dude, but we just gotta be quiet while we're in here. Mm-hmm.
I think they like it though, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I mean, they're
They
with
feel the
mommy.
connection.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even right now, as I'm in my office trying to record, I have one of the dogs trying to like looking like, "What are you doing? What's up? Why I'm not in there?" I'm like, "Because I'm recording." So, Rebecca, so you write the books, you know what's on the page, right? There's technically no surprises there. But when you get the
Mhm.
audio files, do you have any one of those like, okay, oh, okay moments based on their performance?
So I think Ree sent me the samples, when they first when both of them had finished those, and she was like, they're rough, like they're just the samples. I'm the kind of author who like I don't even listen to the samples normally. I normally just approve it so they could just get going in ACX, and then I go back and I proof listen to the whole book usually.
Mm-hmm.
But like when they're finished. But anyway, so I listened to the samples, and yeah, no, it was great. I mean, I think they were like, it's never what you think it's going to be in your head, but
Mm-hmm.
both of them were better than what was in my head. So it was fine because I was like, wow, this sounds so good. Like they both, like Curtis, the way he voiced Matt. So Maverick is like this sexy silver fox. He's like, I obviously have to write heroes that I want to marry in real life. Hello. So,
Mm-hmm.
so like the way he voiced him was so good because his like the so Maverick has these traits where he's very self-assured, but he's also very patient and very kind. And so like I had to be sure, like when I formed his character, I had to be sure to make him, I wanted to make him like alpha and tough, but also very empathetic and kind because he has a wife who doesn't remember who he is, right? So anyway, so the way that Curtis voiced him, he had all of those things that I wrote in the character, like all of those things that I was trying to get across in the character. So it was so amazing. And then of course Ree, I mean, I've worked with Ree on some other projects too. So like I just think she's like so talented. She's such a great narrator. So the way that she voiced all the characters were awesome. And the three heroines in this book are very different. So the main character in book one is Danny. She's a brilliant scientist, very scientific. She doesn't remember anything. So like that's hard to voice, and Reed did great. The book two, the character, I kind of based her on like like a really tough, hard ass, someone you would see in a dystopian world who's just like angry and out to, like save the world, but like doing it begrudgingly. And but inside she's got a heart of gold, but you just have to get there. So they're two very different characters. Like one is very gruff and one is very loving and kind and kind of doesn't remember anything. So anyway, the way that Ree voiced them and did them both justice was really good. So anyway, yeah, I was very pleased with how they interpreted all of the characters because they're all so different and they all have their different facets. And yeah, you guys did a great job.
Thank you. And can I
Thank you
add too,
very
like
much.
this is not a regular trilogy. Like a lot of romance trilogies, you have it when you have different characters in the same world, it'll be like this is Raquel and Dominic's book. This is whoever's
Mhm.
book, right? But in this one, everybody is at least a supporting character. Like the three couples are at least a supporting character in each book. So
Yeah.
it's so different.
Hmm. That also makes it a little bit not, I don't want to say challenging, but I think unique and intriguing in that as far as you trying to do the differentiating the voices of the characters. So when they're all in the same room having dinner, because authors like to do that, the listeners knows who is talking. How did you guys go about that, knowing upfront that they're going to be so involved as far as those secondary characters?
We were told ahead of time who the main characters of the three books would be. So we knew when their name came up in book one that if they were going to be the protagonists of book two or the central interest of book two. Um, and of course, taking cues from the books, from the ways that the characters speak in the dialogue on the page, their reactions to the other characters, all of that comes in to play when you're choosing how to bring them to life and what kind of voice to provide them. So like Danica is the super smart scientist, but she's also funny. She's sassy at times. So you don't need her to be completely like a solid straight shooter the whole time. She breaks away and defers to humor at times, and it's really fun. And then in the second book, Ariana, she is she's a hard ass military chick, and she's very strong of opinion, very strong of body. So I made her strong of voice as well. And I know we just talked about how Curtis voiced Maverick, who, by the way, is my favorite male character of the trilogy.
So
Really? Ah,
Yes,
see, we, we
yes.
we clash on this one.
Oh yeah, yes, you should talk about that though. But yeah, Maverick is my favorite of them all. But I know Curtis did the exact same thing. That is the professionalism of being a narrator.
Yeah, and so did you. I mean, yeah, we're a good pair. We're a good trio. We're a good team.
for sure, for sure. I think Curtis's favorite is Dominic, right? Am I right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, Dominic is so fun because okay, like I get the grumpy personality trope. Is it a
Hmm.
trope? But
Yeah,
Technically,
he's
yeah.
like
grumpy.
he's just slightly like he's not full grump. It's just a part of his
No.
personality, and like just like with all the characters, if I was just reading the dialogue, I would know who was talking, and that really
Yes.
helps. Yeah, so just really well written, well developed characters. But Dominic is just like, oh, he's got so much going on,
Yeah,
and he's
it's
been through so much, and like yeah,
yeah, if Dominic and Ariana had a trope, it would be grumpy and grumpier.
yeah,
Very true. I love writing grumpy characters. Ree knows because she's read a lot of my books. Like I like grumpy sunshine is my favorite trope, and I write that a lot where like the male is grumpy and the female is sunshine. But I do switch it up every so often where the female is grumpy and the dude is sunshine. Now I wouldn't call Dominic sunshine at all, but like
no,
compared to Ariana, he is. So like
True.
it just was
yeah,
really fun writing their like writing the dynamic that they have between
yeah.
each other.
And he's not dopey, but he's like doodly. So it's
Yes,
like he has so much like muscle and testosterone that like he misses some things.
yes,
He's not fully
yes,
there.
I'm gonna use that from now on. Like, dude, he's
Oh,
just doodly.
He's doodly.
that
Yeah.
was perfect.
yes,
Yeah, so
exactly.
he was so fun to be and just that was the one that right away I was like, "Oh, this is him." Like I know exactly
Yes,
who he sounds like, who he is.
for sure. Yeah, you did a great job with him. Yeah, all of them.
Thank you.
All right, Rebecca, do you have any questions for them?
Yes. Okay, so my first question is, when you guys, just because I know you all are in very vastly different time zones, halfway across the world. I think the difference is 13 hours. I don't know, but I would like to know sort of how you all communicated. Was it at night for Ree and in the morning for Curtis, or vice versa, or both?
Oh man, I think it was both. We talk on Facebook Messenger, so it's basically like texting. Um, so, real time send, and sometimes he'll send me a message and I don't get it for hours later, and vice versa. But I think we swapped back and forth, but I'm a night owl, so I'm sure it was mostly me at night and Curtis in the morning.
Yeah, I'm like a morning owl or whatever. What's the morning animal?
Morning
Oh,
bird,
yeah.
isn't
What do
that
you
what it
say?
is? Early bird, early bird.
Early
Oh
bird,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
That's it.
I'm an early bird. Yeah. So I think it was usually me in the morning, you in the night.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm so happy that you guys agreed to do it. I remember first reaching out to you guys and saying, I really would love for you to duet narrate this, but you're on opposite sides of the earth. So let's see if we can figure this out. And you both were so quick to say, got it, we can figure it out. So you all were on it,
Yeah.
which was great.
This is one
Um,
reason why we book.
yeah. I love it. And then I think other question was, and I really wanted to know, now I don't want to give anything away for anyone who's listening and like hasn't listened to the trilogy yet, because I hope that people will listen and hear your amazing um performances. But I wanted to know if you guys saw any of the twists coming, because one of my favorite things is writing twists. And I definitely have a big one in like each book for sure. I have little small ones, but like there's a big one in each book. So I wanted to see if you all knew they were coming, or if, I'm just curious.
That's okay. So without any spoilers, off the top of my head, I can think of there were two in book two. Okay. So three books, total of four major twists off the top of my head, that three of them I did not see coming. And because narrators prep the manuscript ahead of time before they get in the booth. So it wasn't a surprise to me when I was in the booth, but while I'm sitting with my iPad and my Apple Pen and I'm doing my highlights and directorial cues, I'm sitting there and I'm going, what? And I realized that I'm not working anymore. I'm just reading your book. Like I'm just reading, like I have to stop and I'm like, wait a second. And I have to roll back and I'm like, okay. And now I go back to work. But those twists, like I said, just three of them completely blew my mind.
Yes. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, for me, because I don't want to spoil anything. For me, it was mostly with stuff dealing with Tristan. Um,
Mm.
Tristan is like the male protagonist in the third book, and I didn't care much for him in the first two, just because I didn't see the full picture of what he was gonna be, and I
Hmm.
didn't know who he was gonna be with. I was like, who's he gonna fuck? Like who's it gonna be? Like I didn't see it coming, and then it all makes sense, and I really loved that.
Yeah,
All right.
that's
Yeah,
Awesome.
true.
Yay.
yeah,
Totally
That's my,
true.
yeah, that was my big, so like my favorite thing is surprising my readers and getting messages from them like, oh my God, I just got to the twist. Favorite thing as an author. So anyway, that's why I'm happy to hear. Yeah, book three, that's what I wanted. I wanted like no one to see that coming. So, and I knew it was gonna, like, from when I started writing book one, I knew it was gonna happen. And I tried to throw people off and kind of make them think he was gonna be with someone else. But like I always knew that that was where it was gonna go. So,
Yeah, that was
yay.
awesome work.
Sweet.
yeah, really. And like you compared it with 51st States and The Last of Us, and I think that's such a good comparison. But even with The Last of Us, okay, like I was watching episode when did they get to the village? Episode two. with my husband, and I'm like, oh, I know exactly how this entering the random outpost village is gonna go. And I literally narrated the first like 8 shots, and he was like, holy shit, how did you know? I'm like, I just knew. It just
Oh
you don't
man.
spend your life with stories and not know sometimes,
Mhm.
but
Yes.
it's refreshing when you don't
Yeah.
know
Yes.
everything.
Very cool. Well, you guys did an awesome job on it. And I'm so excited to hear book 3 and like get the whole thing out to the world. So
Yeah. Won't be too much longer.
yes.
I'm sad it's done, but also I
Mm.
remember pickups. Pickups are still coming.
Oh yeah, yeah. Job's
There's
not,
still
it
more
ain't
work
over
to
till it's
do.
over.
Right?
It's never over. No.
I do love it when readers are and the narrators are like, well, that's it, but it's so good. And but you guys as authors work months on some of these things, sometimes even years, depending on how big or thick the book is. And we can, as listeners or readers, can finish it in a day. And we're like, when is next? And you're going, woman, it just came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have to say I went back I on Instagram because I was looking at when I reached out to Ree and Curtis about this. I mean, I did start writing this trilogy during the pandemic. So I started like so I mean, that was 2020 is when I
Yeah.
started writing this trilogy. It's almost 2025. And it took me so first of all, I started writing it and then I put it away because I was just like, I don't think this is good enough right now. And I wasn't feeling it. So I went and I wrote some other stuff and then I came back. It just kept sitting in the back of my head. And it was like nagging at me, like, you really want to write this. You really want to write. And I did, I really wanted to write it, but for whatever reason, I just wasn't feeling, it wasn't coming together. And then one morning I sat down and I pulled up what I had written in book 1, which is probably like half of the manuscript. And I read it again and I was like, oh my God, I can do this. I have got to finish this trilogy. Like I just keep thinking about it, whatever. And that was when I reached out to Ree and Curtis and was like, will you narrate this? So that's when I was halfway done with book 1. And the reason I did that is because I knew if I got them to commit to it, that it would help me finish the trilogy. So, but yeah,
Accountability.
so I have literally been writing this trilogy for 4 years almost. So
Mhm.
yeah, it really does take a long time sometimes to do these things.
Yes. And then we just binge listen for it and take, within 24
Yes,
hours, we're like, done.
seriously.
Mhm. It happens, but it's okay. That means that they were really liking it. I know that I will binge listen or binge watch when I'm really invested. Otherwise, it can wait.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Do
Exactly.
you have any other questions for them?
No, I think that was it. I just think, I guess, my other questions are you ready for more books? And I promise I'll write them soon. And hopefully, will you narrate for me again?
Putting them on the spot, girl. Okay.
Oh, that's an easy answer, though. That's just yes across the board. Of
Yeah,
Woohoo!
course.
100% with each other, hopefully.
Yes.
Yes, I hope so too. I gotta just write more books. Stay tuned. TBD.
And I feel like I'm not done with this universe. Like I feel like we need to go back.
Yeah, I left the ending of book 3 open. I left an open ending. I like to leave open endings on everything, but I always I always give a finality to it, but I always leave a little tiny door open. I did that for my Prevent the Past trilogy too, which is my sci-fi time travel trilogy at
Mhm.
the end. And yeah, so I left it open. I'm not opposed to writing more books in this series. And I have to say, for this trilogy specifically, because I know more about marketing now than when I released my sci-fi time travel trilogy, which was years ago. I also released it during the pandemic, so it was like crazy and psychotic. But um, I have had more like just sales commercial success with this trilogy in ebooks, and I think when the duet narration comes out, I'm gonna do even better. And so the fact that it's selling better than my other dystopian trilogy makes me think that I'm there. I might end up writing more books, but in this world. So stay tuned, but not for a while because I need to write some more books under Isla Asher, and I have some other projects that I have to do. So stay tuned.
Oh, we definitely will.
Mhm. Yeah, and I do want to kind of clarify because sometimes, with terms, you said that it was open-ended. That does not mean cliffhanger, folks, just in
No.
case. Yes, because I know that some listeners and readers are like, oh, hell no, if it's a cliffhanger. I'm like, no, no, no. It just means there's something there. It's that dun, dun, dun kind of moment where if
Mhm.
there's going to be more story, that's where probably it's going to pick up.
Yes.
But yeah, people are like, a cliffhanger. I'm like, no, no, that's not what she meant.
No, definitely not a cliffhanger. I mean, I wrap everything up super like with a nice big bow in book 3.
Good.
Like it is
Yeah.
like wrapped up and like let's put the, everything is good to go. But there's a very final part of the last chapter that just leaves the door like super tiny sliver slightly open.
Yeah.
So that,
And that's a good thing to do because when and if you ever decide to go back, you have that opportunity. It's always
Yes.
weird when it's been that bow is so damn tight. And you're like, what are you going to do now?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. All right. So on the flip side, do you guys have any questions for Rebecca?
Did
Do you want to go first, Ree? Oh, sorry.
Do you have a favorite male and female character? They don't have to be a couple. Did you resonate more with one or two of the characters?
In the Sendaxa trilogy specifically, you're
Yes.
asking?
Yes.
Okay, so I love Ariana. So I love writing these badass characters because like I just see myself in them and I'm just like, man, she's so bad. Like she just does not give a crap about anything. And it's so freeing. But she's also just so angry and like trapped by her anger, which is like so human. So anyway, she's my definitely my favorite female character in the trilogy. And that doesn't mean that I don't love, I mean, Dani is like the anchor of the series, right? So like I love her too. She's great, but like Ariana and Grace and everybody, Raquel, everybody, I'm trying to not like, anyway, like everybody's great. But yeah, Ariana is just writing characters like her are so fun. She's very similar, or she has similar traits to my character Evie in my Romantasy series, which is called Etheria's Earth. And when people ask me who my favorite character is, or my favorite female character in that series, I always say Evie was my favorite character to write, even though Miranda is for sure the main protagonist of that series and is always like the anchor of that series and the most fleshed out female character, and certainly my anchor and the character I love in that series. The character that's the most fun to write is always the most slightly unhinged female character. It's Evie and Ariana in this series. So, and then as far as male characters in the series, I don't even know. All three of the male characters in the series were so fun to write. They're all very different. Like I love Maverick because he has such a good sense of humor, but he's also like really strong. I love how in love with Dani he is. Dominic was awesome to write because he just like doesn't take Ariana's crap, which is great. And Tristan was fun. I guess if anything, Tristan was probably the most fun because I had the most he was really the most challenging and the most fun because he's the one, like Curtis said, he's the one that he and the love interests that he has in book 3 are the two that I hadn't developed as much throughout the series, although they had appeared. And so I had a really tough job. I had like written myself into a corner. I told my editor, like, I have a tough job of getting people to really care about these people, but I can do it because I've been an author for a long time now. And I just had to work and really develop them to the point where people really cared and flesh out their characters. So so maybe Tristan, just because fleshing out his character was like challenged me as a author, and I really liked him once I fleshed him out and developed him. So
awesome.
it's a long answer.
Yeah, I really liked what you did with Tristan in the end. Like I wasn't sure, before the third book, I was like, I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about him, but I really liked what you did with that whole part of the
Awesome.
story.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
so happy to hear that. Thank you.
I have just a couple questions, but one is because I just like knowing about other creatives processes and rituals. So is there anything you do or anything? Yeah, like what do you do when you write?
Um, so I mean, I am a binge writer, I'll say. So I'm one of those people who I like to I'm not an author who writes every day. So some authors are like, you have to sit down and write every day and do sprints or whatever people do. Which is totally fine if that's your process. Like I'm not things work differently for people. But for me, because I do really like to sit down and be in my characters' heads, I like to binge write. So for example, book 3, I kind of wrote that whole book in probably like 4 or 5 weeks. I just sat down and just spent like hours and hours and hours every day, really trying to get into the head of the characters and what I wanted to create. So that's kind of my creative process. I like to finish books kind of in like a nice little package because I also get distracted by things. So if I leave the book and I go do other stuff and then I try to pick it up like a couple weeks later, I have to like relearn the characters again. I get in their head again. So I think that's really my creative process is when I'm writing, I really like to immerse myself and write for long bouts of time so I can get into the story.
Okay. Just my second one is like what specifically during writing this trilogy or creating it, um, like what is something that surprised you or something that you like learned about yourself or as a writer?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I think so, like I said, I almost abandoned this trilogy. And I almost didn't write it. And I'm so happy now that I did because I really like it and my readers really like it, which kind of like I'm always surprised when people like my books. Like I feel like any creative person is like that. Like we're always like, is someone gonna like it? And my readers are so used to me writing romantasy. That's all I've written for the past couple of years. So I was just like, oh my God, I'm gonna throw this dystopian thing at them and like just expect them to like it. So the response has been so great, knock on wood, which is great. So I think for me, like what I learned about myself is that if I have an idea that I think is good, that I think is a good story, that I really want to tell. I mean, writing dystopian stories like this is they're probably my favorite to write. I probably enjoy writing them a little tiny bit more than my fantasy stuff, which I thoroughly enjoy as well. But I really just like dystopian storytelling. I like that sort of futuristic, end of the world, like the stakes are really high kind of thing. Um, so I think what I learned is to just stick with it. And if I have something that I think is a good story, that I should just really I don't want to say force myself to finish it because sometimes I felt like I was doing that for this trilogy at points. Well, you always feel like that as an author, but there were other points where it flowed, and I was like, okay, this is good. Like, I'm glad I stuck with this, and I like didn't just leave it to like collect dust on the shelf. So I think yeah, that's what I learned about myself is if I have something that I want to tell, to really make the effort to tell the story.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
Any
I
other
kind of have one
questions?
more. Yeah, I
Yep,
kind
go
of have one
ahead.
more.
Go for it.
I always wonder this about like all authors because some like or most of them I think they have a certain page number for a book and a certain page number for the chapters. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like how do you make it fit?
Yeah, what's the math in that?
Like I don't understand how like and I'm like it makes sense and I just don't get it.
You mean like how long do I want to make the book? Is that what you're asking? Or
Yeah,
like,
and like um like even like chapter sizes like some authors are like, each chapter is 20 pages. I'm like, how did you do that? Like how did you figure that out?
oh, okay. Well, you guys probably noticed I don't have consistently sized chapters. I'm not
Yeah,
the best
that's fair.
person to ask the
But like they're all
question.
around like 65K for these three books,
Yes.
right?
So I
Words,
will
I'm talking.
say, yes, that is a very good observation, Curtis. Because yes, I told my editor. So, okay, so write my romantasy books, they're very long. They're like 100, like books 1 through 6 in that series are over 100,000 words. Most of them are. And it's just, I got to the point where I was like, this is too long. I have to stop writing books this long. So I said to my editor, I said, for my romantasy series, I'm going to start trying to write books that are around 80,000 words instead of 100,000, which doesn't seem like that much less, but for me it is because I get wordy. Um, for this trilogy, I told my editor, I said, look, if I'm really going to do this, because I already have doubts that I can finish it or that I should write it, I said, I'm just going to try and make every book around 60 to 65,000 words, and we'll just see how I do with that. Like, we're just going to see how it goes. Because I am a very verbose storyteller. I like building worlds. I like taking the time to build my characters. I like getting the reader inside my characters' heads. So there is a lot of world building. There is a lot of inner dialogue with my characters. I am kind of like a slow burn author. I'm a slow build author. I want to reveal things slowly to my readers. And not every reader likes that, but my readers like that. So the readers gravitate towards you when you write the stuff that you write. So I said to my editor, like, let me try and see if I can make these stories compelling and develop the characters enough and keep them all around 60 to 65,000 words. So that was my goal. And I think I did pretty well. So so good observation, because that was my goal, 60 to 60,000 words per book. Or sorry, 60 to 65,000 words per book.
Nice. I know sometimes I wonder, like, okay, when you're like word count this and that, but it's true. We see a lot of authors saying, okay, today I'm going to reach my insert number word count for writing, and I'm going, how many chapters is that, or how many pages? Because you all think we think differently. I'm used to just more like page count versus word count, because I think also too, like, size matters.
It sure does.
But it's not always the number of pages. Sometimes it's how many words are on the page.
Right. Exactly.
Like
That's also where
that's
the
why
word.
I'm word count for because like it'll completely change how much time you're spending narrating.
Yeah. That is true,
For
because
sure.
that's the other thing too, with font sizes and difference. I'm like, how many words can you fit on a page? It all depends, which is where the word count comes into play. But those are great questions, Curtis. You should have a podcast.
Yeah, they really are.
Thanks.
Add some stuff to your platter.
I always wanted to be like a journalist or something,
Nice.
but now I do this.
Yeah. Wow,
Nice.
those are great questions, both of you. Those are all of you. Those were great questions. I think we talked about everything in the series without giving any spoilers away. All right, I think we did.
Yes, I think I'm the only one who might have given us spoiler. Everybody else did great.
We won't know until we all read everything and we're like, oh, that was it, Rebecca.
Exactly.
Now the game becomes, can we find the one that she was talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, we can probably continue talking about this and work processes and all this other fun stuff, but we all have things to get to, including more stories. So why don't we have it where you guys tell us what you're currently working on and what's coming up next, and then we'll go from there. Rebecca?
Okay, so I am currently working on a couple of different stories under Isla Asher, and I also have some other super secret pen names, so I won't reveal them here, but I'm working on some stories there too. And then I also need to write book 9 in my romantasy series. So my romantasy readers are like, we loved your dystopian trilogy, we support you, but like, we're ready for that book. So just pop that one out too. So yeah, book 9 in my romantasy series, and a couple of books under Isla Asher, and a couple of other things. So lots going on. Yes.
Well, there are actually only a few audiobooks that I can talk about. Of course, the first and foremost being Fated Salvation, the third Sendaxa Chronicles book. It is in post-production now, so it will be coming out. His Wild Attraction, which is the fourth book in C.D. Gorey's Wild Billionaire Romance series, which I co-narrate with Michael Norman Johnson. That will be coming out probably the end of November. I have a couple of surprise titles that I'm going to be narrating by author Victoria Silk. Her books are too hot for Amazon or Audible. So she is a wide author and also has her own storefront on victoriasilkbooks.com. I have a couple of nonfiction titles that I'm doing under a different name. And as an editor, I have several romance and thriller titles that I'll be working on until the end of the year.
Nice. Great. Curtis?
Yes. So I've got a good amount of projects coming out. A lot of romance. That's a lot of my bread and butter. But other things like some horror, some nonfiction, and I'm directing a version of Dracula with my teenage students. So I'm
That's
busy
so
all with
cool.
that this fall. Yeah. It's fun.
Good goodness, you guys are always so busy.
Yeah. What's wrong with us? We can't help it.
I know. Hey, it's work ethics, right? It's like, okay, I have some downtime. What should I do? Fun? No, let's work more. It's because also you guys love what you do. So I think that that's part of it too. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, I'm excited to see what else is coming up as we know between the time that we, finish talking today and then when this airs. And of course, everything. So thank you again so much, Rebecca, Curtis, and me for taking the time to hang out with us and telling us all about this series. If you're not following them on social media, I will be providing you the links for this episode's post over at Viviana Enchantress of Books. And until next time, happy listening.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shout-outs, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobookloving. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin Series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.